Okay, just gonna go on a neutral page. Just gonna double check if we are live right now.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay. We are currently 2 minutes ahead. I was hearing myself as an echo. Just.
I muted the YouTube already.
Okay. So just gonna wait like 2 minutes in order for the audience to come, and that in 60 seconds from now we go and we start. So hi everyone, it's currently 2 p.m. We are on April the 6th, 2021. My name is Ronan Chardonneau. I'm a former SEO practitioner. I have the chance today to have as a guest a friend of mine named GJ Bramer. This is the second SEO journey that I'm conducting. The last one was about Switzerland. Today it will be about the Netherlands. And the idea of those talks is to talk about search engine optimization and more in particular what I call, let's say, geographical search engine optimization, which is about making a guest coming on stage who know very well his markets and who is able to explain us how to perform SEO on his given market. So today I have the chance to be with GJ Bramer, who I know from the European Search Awards, and I'm going to ask him plenty of questions during the next 45 minutes in order to understand how can we perform search engine optimization when it comes to the Netherlands. So first of all, thank you very much, JJ, for being with us today. My first question will be, could you please introduce yourself to our audience, explain who you are, what you have done in the past in regards to search engine optimization, and as well what is your current position, what you are currently doing on a day-to-day basis regarding, let's say, the Netherlands part of SEO.
Well, thank you, Ronan, for having me. I'm GJ. I'm Dutch from origin. I'm living in France now for about half a year, so that's a little change. I started out many years ago for myself and just building websites and doing the stuff a lot of people started with. But websites are more or less a commodity nowadays. So very soon I switched from websites and what comes with websites to how to make a website work and how to make it found by Google, etc., etc. As from there on, I got into the SEO world and also SEA, social media, etc. Everything that has to do on internet marketing or digital marketing or whatever you call it. And I always telling my clients that my feeling is there is online marketing and there are specific parts of online marketing, SEO, SEA, social media, etc. But they're more or less the flip sides of the same medal. So you can do a lot of SEA But if the SEO isn't in order, the SEA won't be as good as it should be. And as long as you can profit from all kinds of social media channels, sometimes that could even be as interesting to start with as SEO or SEA. So for me, it's one big thing. And but I'm more or less specialized or focused to SEO. Many years ago, I was part of the Simple organization, or I was co-chair of the European part of the Simple. And from there on, people asked me if I would be interested to join the European Search Awards. So I've been judging them for about 10 years now. This year was also, I did a lot of judging. And what I saw over the years that the quality of the entries of the Search Awards was growing and growing and growing. And that's very good to see that the professionality and the way people approach these kinds of stuff is very, very improving. So it's nice to see. And what I'm doing, I'm mostly working for Dutch organizations. I'm also part of some international from the US. And they have got some big clients, and sometimes I do some stuff for them for the Dutch market mostly. And what I'm doing with my clients is helping them with the online marketing, more or less. And that's about it. And it depends on what their questions are, what their level of entry is, what their knowledge is, how I can deal with them. And my approach is always start small. I don't start up with signing up for years contracts and so on and so on. I start with a few hours to get to know to each other and to get to learn from each other. And from there on, we see if we can develop the relationship and what the results are, and so on and so on. So that's how I work mostly with my clients. And that's about it for this moment. So.
Okay. Thank you. Just a precision. So you mentioned SEMPO. So just for our audience, the SEMPO, can you tell us a couple of sentences about what is SEMPO?
SEMPO is a search engine marketing professional organization. It's an organization. It's based, very focused on the US, and there are people from all over the market, like me, who are dedicating some time, some work, some energy into making it a more professional thing within the online marketing.
Okay. Sorry for the same question, but could you please, for audience, introduce a little bit what is the EU Search Award?
The EU Search Awards, I always compare it with the Oscars for movies. You can send in your case. You can have your case on online marketing, if it's PPC or SEO, whatever. There are a lot of categories. You can send in a case for the Search Awards. There are a few dozens of judges like me from the business. They take care of a lot of entries, judge them by certain criteria. And from there on, we provide a shortlist. And from the shortlist, the winner in every category is chosen. And there's always an award ceremony. The last years it was online, of course. But before that, we used to have a big celebration in all kinds of cities, in Amsterdam, Paris, Berlin, Reykjavik, and so on. And then we celebrate the best of the people who were entered for the competition.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us all those information. We're going to know now to the next question, which is about the Netherlands in itself. Could you please, as you are from the Netherlands, could you please introduce us the Netherlands in general, so as, for example, showing us if there are some different markets there. And as well, I have a curiosity question. So of course, I send you the question in advance, so for you it's not a curiosity anymore. But for myself, I didn't go on Wikipedia or anything like that. I didn't Google it. But to be honest with you, I didn't even know what is the difference between what we call Holland and what we call the Netherlands. I know that in France, for example, we can use, for example, the two names, and I don't even know what is the difference between the two of them, and that's what my question is about.
There is the difference is there is no difference. It's just the same name for the same country.
Okay.
But there are some provinces or some departments or some districts. In Holland, we've got about 13 of them. Like in France, you've got département. And in Holland, we've got these as well. And one of them is called North Holland, and the other one is called South Holland, and there are a lot of others. And together they form a country that's called as Netherlands or Holland, or in France, Pays-Bas, oftewel Low Country. But it's the same thing for the same country, the same people, and etc. So there is no really difference between those. And yeah, about Holland, it's a very small country. It's close to the North Sea. There are 70 million people. There are a lot of people on a very, very small surface, so it's very crowded, certainly in the cities. And it's as from marketing perspective, it's more or less a hub to Europe. Because it's a small country, we are very outgoing, very outspoken, we are very into marketing, so we make contacts and we trade with everybody, everywhere for centuries. And there is literally a hub in Holland. We've got these huge cables coming ashore from over the ocean to Europe, and they go ashore in Holland. So there is literally a hub in Holland. And the people in Holland are very internet savvy. They know a lot about it. We've got broadband, I don't know, about 80% nowadays in Holland. So everybody has more or less a possibility to use broadband. There are some data centers from Google and Microsoft in Holland already. And yeah, it's a very developed market for internet. And because English is our second language, it's also very easy if you're from abroad to interest people in what you have to tell. And yeah, it's everybody in Holland thinks they're speaking English very well. That's not the case, but at least they understand it. So that's easy for foreign countries to make an entrance in Holland, and unlike in Germany or France, it's not necessary to have an FR or DE domain to attract people, because a com domain is just as well accepted as the common domain NL. There's a top level domain in Holland, but that doesn't make any difference in approach and marketing stuff, etc. And if you write something down in English, most people will understand it. So you don't need to start with Dutch. Yeah, it's always good to speak to people in their own language, because it makes you more sympathetic and makes it easier to understand. But as the Dutch more or less all understand English, you could start out with English in the Dutch market. It's mostly not a problem.
Okay. Then it makes other questions coming through my mind that I will ask you later. Just one curiosity one. Will you say that, for example, as Holland and Netherlands are used as synonyms, will you bother trying to put the Holland keyword within, for example, the title tag instead of Netherlands, if you would like to focus more in targeting this specific market? Or would you just say, okay, commonly used, it's the Netherlands, it's not Holland, so don't need to bother to put both keywords? Have you seen such questions already, or such a use case in which people are trying to insert just those two keywords, just one of those, or
I don't think there's a difference. And nowadays Google and Google's AI is they know everything. So if you use Holland or Netherlands, it doesn't make it. For the people, it doesn't make any difference. For Google, it doesn't make any difference. I don't think choosing one of them is going to change the outcome of what you are doing.
Okay, so it will be like horse and horses, am I right? Like,
sorry?
It will be like horse and horses, right? You say like one is plural and okay. Thank you. I have another question which is linked to the, let's say, the markets when it comes to the Dutch language. So I've been told that a part of Belgium is using Dutch as a language, or at least we heard the language named Flemish. And I would like to know if it's exactly the same language as the Dutch spoken in the Netherlands, and are there any other markets in the world where the Dutch language can be used for SEO purposes?
Well, Flemish is a little different from Dutch. The outline is more or less the same. But if I would set up a campaign in Belgium in Flemish, I would ask a Flemish guy or girl to do it for me, because it's very important to know the finesses of the language and to know what kind of phrases you have to use. And the difference between Flemish and Dutch are large enough to set something up by a Flemish-speaking person. And the same thing goes for South Africa. They've got something of a dialect from, it resembles a little about Dutch. And there are some communities in America that were based by Dutch people, immigrants, and there are Dutch people living all over the world, because we are very outgoing and very you can find Dutch everywhere. So but really Dutch, like it's spoken in Holland, I don't think there is so much. And because also it's changing very fast, because the Dutch are adapting languages very fast. English there are a lot of English words in Dutch nowadays, because unlike in Germany or in France, when there's an English of an American movie, it's shown in the theater without any with subtitles, but in the original language. So we are used to hear English and German and French, etc., all the time, because everything is shown in the original language, and there's always subtitles. And like in France, when there's an English movie, you have to find the original movie, otherwise it will be translated in France. So we are very used in adapting languages. So there are a lot of English and German, etc. words in the Dutch language. So it's changing all the time. So let's say you read something, a Dutch text from 10 years ago, it will be a little different from the Dutch people are using nowadays. We've got also street languages going on. So when you hear some youngsters talk to each other, even for me as older guy, it's difficult to follow it. We are adapting. We are adapting very, very fast. In France, they're trying when there's an English word, they try to find the French word to replace the English words, to be sure the French isn't affected by English or whatever. I don't know why, but that's how it is. It's the same as the French radio is obliged to play at least I don't know how many % of French music. We don't have that in Holland. So it's a little it's quite different from the other bigger countries. So language is changing fast. So really the same Dutch as spoken in Holland, I won't know where to find it.
Okay. Um, okay. Are you seeing a lot of, let's say, foreigner websites? I think somehow you already answered to this question, because my question is, are you seeing a lot of foreigner websites targeting the Dutch market, or are you saying that the language barrier is make, in fact, the Netherlands a difficult market to enter? But if I understood what you say that, okay, you don't need to know Dutch in order to enter within the Dutch market. So you definitely, if you have a website written in English, you could definitely already address to the Dutch market, if I understood it well. But just, let's say, do you have a lot of demands regarding SEO in the Netherlands? Let's make it this way.
You could start out with English. That's mostly good, but that also depends a little bit about your audience. Let's say you product and your audience. SEO is just like marketing in about 50, 60 years ago. It's about the piece, the price, the promotion, the person, the product, etc. And if they ask for the Dutch language, you should always apply the Dutch language. But to start out, you can easily start out in English with a com domain and start getting into the market. But let's say you want to sell Dutch music or something like it. Yeah, it's a little stupid if you should use a com domain in English language. And if you're aiming at older people, I think it's wise to see if you could find someone to do the SEO in Dutch. But if you're aiming at younger people, there's no use of trying to get into Dutch, because every younger English is a second language in Holland, and everybody gets English at school. So as long as people are going to school, they learn English more or less. And as I told you, everything, the music, the films, the movies, the series are all in English. So everybody understands English. So to start out, it's easy to use English, but perhaps in one moment you find out it's easier to, or better to talk to people in their own language to get a head start or something like it. And then you should use Dutch. But for starters, no use.
Okay. One technical question. Let's say that you are using a popular, very famous online translator from English to Dutch. Do you think that the result is pretty accurate, or would you say that it's crap because, such as in German, I don't know Dutch at all, but I know that in German, for example, the words can really move from one place to another word within a sentence? And would you say that online translators are good? And if so, what would be the best language to translate from one language to Dutch? Will it be English, or will it be French, or do you have any experience with that at all?
Nowadays, those translators are so good. It's unbelievable what they provide. But still, you always need to check it yourself, because there are always the nuances, and nuances is where it's about. That's the same with with websites. The basis should be okay. The basis should be good. So language should be good. If it's not good, you won't get it as where you want it. So for starters, you could try to translate it in DeepL or Google or whatever, but you don't get it 100%. Never ever. Always dig into it. Always. I use it a lot because I've got clients all over the world, and now I'm living in France. I'm just tapping on my telephone all day long, all the words, and I find out there are so many nuances in the words, and marketing is all about the details. The details should be in order. So that's the same with the language. If you want to do a proper marketing job, you should know the nuances, and you should use them in the right way, and don't depend on automatization. And that's the same with everything. You know, we've got, as SEOs or SEAs or whatever, we've got all the tools in the world to do the job, or to help us doing the job. We've got crawlers, we've got positioners, we've got keyword research, etc., etc. But still, here is the machine that should do the work, because you should do the interpretation yourself. Don't leave it to automatization. Never, ever. Always check it.
Okay. An easy one. Which search engine is the most used in the Netherlands? Which search engine is the most used in?
Google is 90+% in the worldwide, so that's the same in Holland. And yeah, again, it's quite easy because we adapt to English very fast. So Google is very much adapted everywhere.
Okay. Do you have any IT workforce in the Netherlands? I mean, any startups or companies that we should know of, which are very good, either in their sector, or let's say, is there an IT workforce? For example, you mentioned the Simple, for example. Is there an equivalent of the Simple in the Netherlands? Is there, what is the name of the, let's say, big IT organization in the Netherlands? You mentioned previously that the Dutch market is really internet savvy. So I guess they should have like a lot of startups. What are the big startups to look at? Are there any kind of those, let's say, technologies workforce, or is everything relying on the USA? Has there been in the past any search engine opportunities of Dutch search engine, for example, that kind of things?
Now, perhaps there are, I am not aware of them, but I know there are some Dutch organizations and some Dutch agencies that are doing a great job, but there are, as far as I know, there are no, I can't tell you where to go. I know the same thing. I know there are some gaming companies in Holland that are doing great jobs, but I don't know where exactly. There are some institutes and some initiatives and so on you could go to, but I couldn't tell you, if you were to get into this market, where to go and where to find those people. You just check around. There are some conferences, there are some people you can find out. You can go on, let's say, on Twitter or LinkedIn to find those people and get in touch and see if they can help you out. But I don't know any institutes to go to. We've got the EAB, Internet. That's a general marketing organization, and they're also in online marketing, but not exactly, especially in online marketing. So they should be interesting to reach out to, but not specific in this market, I think.
Okay. You already mentioned it, but my question was about, okay, which is the most used top-level domain name in the Netherlands? And the answer is
NL.
NL. Would you say that it's more used than the .com, or?
No, I think it's equally divided. I don't know. And we've got in Holland, we've got SEDN, Stichting Internet Domain. I don't know, SEDN, and they are handing out the NL domains. They are taking care of it. They organize the stuff, and they of course bring it out to commercial organizations, to where you can register your domain name. But SEDN has its own site, sedn.nl, and there you can check out if the domain name in NL is available and what the alternatives there possibly are. And then you can go to your own provider to register your domain. And it costs you between 5 and 15 euros a year or whatever to register a domain. So that's quite easy. And still, there are a lot of domains to be found, because I've got clients all over. I've got a lot of Dutch clients. And I'm always surprised. A few months ago, I had this, let's call it adult industry client, who is selling all kinds of sex toys, etc. And even for him, I could find some real nice domain names. And you would think this industry is fully developed, and there are no domain names available anymore. But even for him, I could find some real nice domain names that were still available. So it's when you're going to go there, check SEN, check what kind of words you want to use, what kind of domain name would be interesting, and check if they're available, and then grab them. And for 5 or 10 euros a year, you should pick as much domain names as you want, because it's easy money. It's easy to find a good domain. No, not easy. It's still possible to find great domain names.
Okay, which finally goes back to the previous question that I asked, which is about, okay, do you see a lot of foreigners coming into the market? The answer here is probably not as it could be, I will say, because if you mentioned that some domain names are still available, probably it means that people have been scared of the language barrier, probably, and didn't try to look for it. So that's
but before you choose a domain name, you should know what industry you're in, or what names are interesting to register. So you should at least have common knowledge about the language before registering a domain name. So if let's say an English guy or whatever, he comes in a company that comes into the Dutch market, should at least know the language a little bit, because otherwise you can't register an NL domain name, because it's no use. You should understand the language before you register the domain name. It's easy to register, but if you don't know where or what to look for, you won't find the answer you're looking for. That's the whole industry. If you don't know what to ask for, you won't get the right answers.
One curiosity will just get to my mind. I have the feeling that I'm not 100% sure, but I think that the .amsterdam should be available as a TLD.
Yeah, it is, but only for organizations in the governmental organizations.
Okay.
So like the city council and like say museum in Amsterdam, or the university in Amsterdam, or something like that. They can register the Amsterdam domain. You have to prove you eligible for the domain in Amsterdam. You just can't walk in and say, I want the Amsterdam domain name.
Just another curiosity which just came to my mind. Did you already got some backlinks coming from those domain name ending in .amsterdam? Because I guess that then the weights of those links are far higher than let's say classic NL domain name.
Depends if you've got an Amsterdam domain name, if you've got a shit website, the link isn't worth the time and money you spend in it. So if you've got a great domain and a great website, it's well registered and well organized, the domain name is always better than a shitty website. Let's say you've got a gov of a website or whatever, and it's shit. That doesn't bring you any value.
Okay. Thank you. Next question is about the hosting companies in the Netherlands. Of course, we could discuss the possibility of, of forcing, let's say, the hosting of our website in the Netherlands. But let's just answer first to the question about what are the big companies in the Netherlands providing web hosting for websites.
There are some, but it's no use. I hosted a lot of websites in London.
Okay.
Because there is no difference in speed, because it's close by. It's cheaper. It's better organized. But there are some really great hosting organizations in Holland. But it doesn't attribute to your SEO, SEA, whatever. It's you can find them and you can try to set up something there, but you could easily host it somewhere else. Okay. That's no problem.
So you are more thinking in terms of technological cable, from my understanding, about where are the big hubs, where are the cable going in order to provide.
In Amsterdam, we've got a huge server park. It's attached to the university, and it's got this huge cable. It's on the knot. It's really physically a hub in the internet. If you could get there, that's okay. But the internet in Holland is very much developed, so it's not very. You could gain a little bit of time and a little bit of latency, etc., etc. But it's not really adding to your business. So let's say you're hosting in England or in Germany. There's this huge German company. It's called Stratos, and they are very well known. And I know a lot of people are hosting websites at Stratos in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, of course we've got KPN. That's the original Dutch telecom company, and nowadays there are a lot more, and they are all hosting and access for all, and I don't know how many there are. There are a huge amount of them, but there are just like telephone companies. They have their own name and their own brand, but they're renting room at bigger data companies. So you should find out to check out yourself what you need, how to need. And nowadays with all the CDN, etc., you're hosting on several platforms at the same time. So the physical location of your server isn't that important anymore.
Okay.
I think for bigger companies like France or Germany, that's different, because you want a French domain, a German domain, you want it hosted in Germany or in France because of the physical location. And I could understand that's interesting, but in Holland, I don't think that's that much of a difference.
Okay. Question regarding the technological part. Which is the most used technology in order to build up a website in the Netherlands?
WordPress, the same in the rest of the world.
Okay.
But it depends on how big it is, of course, because WordPress is it's easy, and it's very friendly. But yeah, if you want to build up a website or a web shop with, I don't know, 100,000 articles or whatever, you don't use WordPress. You're going to change to something else. But in general, WordPress is like in the rest of the world, it's the main, it's easiest, it's the best way of starting out with your website. Okay,
so if we go for a bigger website, you will go as well for a big CMS open source technology, so as WordPress, and like Drupal, like Typo3 or any other. I know that for France, for example,
it depends on the scale you want to start with. Okay. If you want to start with regular, simple, small website, I don't know, 50, 100 pages or whatever, you could easily start out with WordPress, no problem. Mm. But if you want to get it bigger, you find a better solution, and even better. We've got in Holland, we've got Marktplaats. That's marketplace, translated Marktplaats. That's some kind of eBay thing, but it's a marketplace where people selling and buying goods. And if you want to start out your web shop, you can hire or rent a piece of Marktplaats, as a portion. You can get your own domain there. And you can start out selling stuff without investing in your own platform. So if you want to start out and you don't have thousands of euros to spend, but you want to start out with selling stuff, you could easily go to Marktplaats, rent yourself a space, start selling stuff, and then from there on, if that works and that you earn some money, you can build up your own e-commerce environment. That's a lot easier than building up a website, etc., and spending a lot of money on building, hosting, etc. So that's all. Naturally, I'll have some clients that come to me. Well, we want to start out, and we don't have any money. Okay, so there are people still doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. I always tell them, you start out with Marktplaats or you start out with bol.com or whatever. You can get your own corner in their big e-commerce environment, and you can start selling goods. And if that works okay, then you can go starting out your own business. But that's also a thing to understand. It's easier perhaps to start out there, than finding the stuff yourself.
Okay. Which pieces of advice would you give to, let's say, a foreigner SEO who would like to get some backlinks from a .nl website?
Reach out. I'm not link building is not my forte. That's not my line of business. I'm not that. I know a lot of people who are doing this stuff and they're doing a great job, but it's not my thing. But the thing is, you can reach out to people and to find places where you want to build backlinks, and then you can ask them. Just simply ask people, deliver something, deliver content, etc., and use that to start out building stuff. The same thing with social. Everybody is forgetting about social media. You can start out with, even on your LinkedIn profile, you can start building links. And in Pinterest, you can start building links. Facebook, you can start building links. There are so many ways you can start building links without even spending any money on it. But then if you want to start really doing the link building stuff, you should find some kind of an organization could do it for you. I don't really know. I know, of course, I can know places where you can go to, but it's not my line of work. But just think about yourself. There are so many places where you can do free link building, and that's to start with. Why not?
Okay. Are there any, let's say, freelance website or places that one can go to in order to knock at, in order to say, okay, I have a budget of, I don't know, 1,000 euro, 500 euros, something like this. I want to do link building, or I want to look for a Dutch SEO. Where could I go? Is it like going to Fiverr? Is it like going on freelance.is? Is it like going, I don't know, Malt, for example?
Yeah, I think you should go to Fiverr. Fiverr is, it's easy and it's cheap, and generally it works very well. We've got some other platforms. Let's say there's a huge platform in Holland. It's called higherlevel.nl. That's a website. You can register yourself. It's for people, for brands, for communities. There are a lot of professionals working there and have their profile already there. It's very, very well indexed. So for link building purposes, it's great because it works like a charm. And there you can find a lot of people who know what they're talking about and can help you with it. And that goes not only for online marketing, but for everything. That's a very great platform to go to and to find people to work with.
Okay. I have one question, which is about the tools that you use at the SEO. Would you say that when it comes to the Netherlands, you have some additional tools which exist, or is it like the traditional tool, for example, like SEMrush, like Screaming Frog, like I don't know which other technology that we can use, which are mostly labeled as international, or are there any Dutch technologies that we should know about which are very good in finding out some website or better in understanding the language or anything like this?
Not as far as I know.
Okay.
Again, it's very the Dutch market is very international, so everybody's using the international stuff. There's no use to build something for the Dutch market because it's a small market, the international stuff is good enough for the Dutch market. So why invent something that is already there, but perhaps in English?
Okay. What are the big events in terms of SEO in the Netherlands, if there are any?
Yeah, there are some great. There are some stuff in the Netherlands. We've got every year we've got the Friends of Search. That's a huge event. It's nowadays it's one day in Holland and one day in Belgium. and there are people coming from everywhere in the world to talk, and that's a very, very, very well thought out event. That's very good to attend. It's always in Amsterdam. I think this year it's all again. It's online, and we've got something like Conversion Hotel. There's a company is organizing this stuff, and it's always on Texel. It's an island in the North Sea, and they hire a hotel or a few hotels, and they've got a few days of conversion. Yeah, it's called Conversion Hotel. But it's really, the organization is very, very into conversion, but it's a very, if you want to go into online marketing, you want to know people, meet people, etc. That is a great way to find people, to meet people, and to learn some stuff. It's those are the two that come in mind if you ask me where to go, which are great.
Okay.
I know for a fact that a lot of Dutch guys are going to Brighton SEO, because Brighton SEO is very well known. It's a lot of people coming, and from Holland to Brighton, it's quite close. You know, it's Holland. We got Schiphol, and Schiphol is also a hub in the international airline industry. There are more people getting from one plane to another in Schiphol than boarding, and so it's huge. So we've got access to everywhere in the world from Schiphol. So yeah, for us going to Brighton, perhaps that's as easy as going from your place to my place. I think it will take the same amount of time or whatever, you know. It's also, in Holland, there are bands performing in Amsterdam, and the tickets for those bands, most of English bands or whatever, are sold out in England in a jiffy. And then there's a concert in Amsterdam, and then you go there, and perhaps even more than half of the crowd is English, because they take a plane. It costs you, I don't know, 30, 40 euros, whatever, to go from London to Amsterdam and back. And then they go to a concert, and then they go out all night, and then the next morning they get back. And it's cheaper for them to go to Amsterdam for the concert than to go to the concert in England. So yeah, it's quite easy to get into Holland and get out, etc. Yeah, now they with the Brexit, I don't know, but yeah, it's so small. So there are so many events all around where you can go easily from Holland to there. So.
Okay. One last question that I have is about the obligations of a webmaster. So let's imagine that I'm opening up a website targeting the Netherlands. Definitely there's no contest here because the language will be in Dutch and the domain name is in .nl. Are there any obligations that we need to fulfill?
Yeah, you should be aware that in Holland we more strict than all the countries. I've come across governmental sites in France that aren't even secure. They don't have an SSL certificate. There's a German of a French domain here in Nièvre, where I live. The prefecture of Nièvre have their website. It's not even secure. Unbelievable. Understand? I don't know, but we've got AVG or the GDPR. That's a security thing, and so it's to make sure that your identity is secure, etc., etc. It's a general law nowadays in all over the world. In Holland, it's called AVG, and you have to apply to these laws. You have to apply. You be sure that your site is GDPR ready. So you should be you should be confirmed to everything that's called in the GDPR. That's very, very important. You should have Chamber of Commerce. You should have your number of Chamber of Commerce on your website. I don't know if it's obligational in other countries, but in Holland it is. And if you start out selling stuff, we also have a VAT in Holland. In Holland it's called BTW. And for the consumer market prices is always included VAT. There are some companies who are forgetting that, and they are offering prices without VAT. But in Holland, if you're aiming at consumers, the consumer, the end market, it's always, the price is always included VAT. That's a thing to remember. There are some, I've seen some people from abroad, some other countries, from other countries that are setting up an e-commerce and they're putting a prices excluding VAT, but in Holland it should be included. So that's, I think, both the GDPR compliant all the way, SSL of course, and Chamber of Commerce number. And yeah, it's the common things, you know, you put on your basic information and where to reach you, etc., etc. But yeah, that's more or less common in the rest of the world. But
okay. Well, thank you very much for all those information. It's currently it's close to 2:50, and this I promised that this one-to-one conference will not be more than 60 minutes. So one last question, but which will be more for you. Do you have anything that you would like to say to any international SEO who would like to market the Netherlands, or any other information that you would like to give them?
yeah, get informed. Be sure you know what you're talking about. It's quite easy to start out and to think you know where to find it, and you've read some stuff and you think what it's about. Just reach out to someone who knows. You just go on LinkedIn or whatever and get in touch with someone and ask them. Everybody loves to talk about their work. So just reach out, ask around. And if you, like what I said earlier, if you don't know what to ask, you never will get the right answers. And that's the same with consultants, that's the same with business owners, that's the same with everybody. Get informed, be sure you've got your knowledge ready, be sure you know what to ask, where to ask, and when to ask it. And then you get the right answers, and then you can do your business right. And I think that's important all the way. It's in every business, in every industry, it's always the same. You should be informed. And if you don't know how to be informed, get informed as well. Because yeah, you need to be up to date, and otherwise, the chance of failures are all around the corner.
Okay. Well, I just looked through the chat in order to see if there are any questions, but I could not find any. Well,
we were very clear on.
Yeah, yes, we were. Honestly, I'm delighted from this interview because first you played the game, you answered to all the questions. That was really a pleasure. If I had to conclude about what everything you mentioned, from my understanding is that Netherlands is definitely a market that we should go for, because as far as we know English, there are definitely some opportunities for us there. And when you want to go and do things serious, then this is what you previously mentioned. If you want to start to do marketing seriously, then you need to have the right budget, finding out the right person. Don't be scared of trying to find him or her, and then ask any questions you have, and then pay the price. And you're probably gonna tell me that it's worth it, because I guess that the Dutch market is worth the try.
Yeah, it's a small market. It's only 17 million people. So compared to, let's say, France or Germany, it's a small market. But people are very open for changes, very open for new stuff. They're all open for new information, and it's a wealthy country. There's a lot of money, so the market is very interesting, I think, for people from abroad. If you got something interesting to tell them, people are open for your message and what you have to sell. You know, Alibaba, you know, the firm in China. I don't know, but I believe nowadays everybody in Holland is buying from Alibaba. Everybody wants a bargain, you know. The Dutch people are famous for being very, very into bargains. So if you've got something good and it's a bargain, you mostly likely to win the market. you can't lose.
Okay.
So it's an interesting, it's a very interesting market for companies from abroad.
Okay. Thank you very much for all those information, JJ. If some people want to contact you, I guess that they can easily find you on LinkedIn or just Google your name. So your name is GJ Bramer. So Bramer, and GJ is with a G and then a J. Sorry for that. So GJ Bramer.
The French, my neighbors love my name. They can't pronounce it, but anyway, it's okay. It's good. It's at least we've got something to talk about. Hey, Ronan, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for inviting me and for this opportunity. And again, we'll meet again one day of these days, and we have a glass of wine somewhere on a terrace in sunny France somewhere, and we'll talk soon.
No problem. Take care. Bye. And thank you everyone for attending our conference. Bye.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.